My name is Doug Kaufman. For the past 40 years, I've dedicated my life and even my career to finding the root cause of disease. Join me and a team of physicians, pharmacists, and scientists, and soon you too will know the cause. Well, then there's all this nomenclature, naming things and so forth. And in mycology, doctors, PhD mycologists, really love that, the nomenclature. What's the species, what's the genera, et cetera. So right now I want to talk with you about something called mycoses. And we're going to keep this very, very simple for television, and because it's all I know. Mycoses is what we call a fungal infection. Here's a whole book. Look at this book, Mycotoxins, given to me by Rain and Ralph. Thank you. The book was written in 1976. This whole 400 pages is on just fungal poisons. So when we use the word mycoses, the doctor is saying, you have a fungal infection, okay? And there's different kinds of mycoses. There are superficial, first layer of skin, right? There's subcutaneous, under the first layer of skin, things like ringworm and things like that. And then there's deeper mycotic growth. And folks, that's what Know the Cause is all about. Know the Cause isn't about ringworm. Know the Cause isn't about thrush. I'll show you a picture of thrush. Know the Cause is understanding the deeper than that white tongue is a bad infection. I'll never forget Dr. Dave Holland gave me an article one time that 100% of women who had chronic vaginal yeast infections had gut yeast. And until you take care of the gut yeast, you're going to have chronic problems with vaginal yeast and also things like thrush, et cetera. So let's start out by answering the question then, what is a mycoses? And here we have it, a disease, any disease caused by fungus, right? I don't know why doctors can't say you have a fungal infection, but they don't. It's called a mycoses. Remember, MYCO denotes fungus. So a mycoses is one fungal infection. What would you then call two fungal infections? SES, the plural, mycosis. A disease caused by fungus. A fungal infection in or on a part of the body. Now that's important for us to understand. On the body is one thing. In the body is what Know the Cause is really dedicated to. I'm concerned when that fungus gets into the lung and looks exactly on an X-ray like lung cancer. That's where Know the Cause has gone for 20 years on the media. Who gets fungal infections? There seems to be two kinds of people that do, but doctors say there's really one kind that are especially vulnerable, and that's people who have weakened immune systems. That's called immunocompromised. Weakened immune systems, people with AIDS, cancer, transplant patients who have had a lung transplant or something, and are taking certain immunosuppressive drugs, like cyclosporin or other drugs, tissue rejection drugs. Believe me, the whole medical community thinks those are the people that get fungal infections. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Immunocompromised people like me get fungal infections also. I want you to understand that there's a leaning the last 10 years, which I'm loving. In 1999, the Mayo Clinic said virtually all chronic sinusitis is fungus. Wait a minute, are these immunocompromised patients? No, not at all. They're living in a moldy home. They're inhaling that mold all the time, so they have a chronic fungal problem. But there's a leaning that kids with asthma are living or growing up in a moldy home. They're not immunocompromised, they're kids. They don't have AIDS or cancer. They're kids, healthy kids, who continue to inhale the mold, and it gives them what looks like asthma, but now we know it's a lung fungal infection, okay? Look at this. This is what we call thrush. You've probably seen this in yourself or your kids from time to time. If you're taking antibiotics, keep a watch out for that, because this, folks, is what I want to tell you. This isn't only coating the tongue. This may be coating way down there, right? Way down there, into the alimentary system, into the gut. Believe me, the alimentary system from mouth to rectum and everything in between probably is coated white like that also. Antibiotics kill the good bacteria and the yeast thrive. So that's fairly common. Then we have a little bit, do you know what this is? This is called ringworm. See the noted exterior, the shell around it, if you will, the raised area. This is ringworm. This is a fungal skin infection. Those are of interest to us at Know the Cause, but of real support for the show is the deeper mycoses, those which appear to be cancer, those which appear to be atherosclerosis, those which appear to be chronic sinusitis or asthma or COPD. That's where we go on this show. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the systemic mycoses. One of the fungus is single-celled. It's called a yeast. And the yeast was popularized by a doctor back in the 1960s. The yeast is called Candida albicans. Don't go away.
My name's Shannon Mitchell, and I live in Springfield, Missouri. I got diagnosed with prostate cancer about 6 years ago, and I went to a meeting with Don Strom in Arkansas, one of Doug Kaufman's meetings, and I've followed the phase 1 protocol for now about 6 years. And most of the people I know that tried other methods that had it, they're not here, and I am. I'm leaner and a lot more muscular. Anytime that I cheat, you can tell a difference. And usually, the diet itself corrects me pretty quick because I know that, well, I'm doing something I shouldn't do because I don't feel good. Well, I'd recommend that they look into this very seriously. I think it's the best alternative I found to radiation or chemotherapy, and I didn't want to try those. The meeting that Don took me to in Arkansas, Doug's meeting, was an answer to prayer.
You know, doctors today are finally getting the word Candida albicans. This is a species of yeast, single-cell fungus, right? Candida tropicalis, Candida glabrata, there's many, many candidas. But Candida albicans is an opportunistic pathogen. That means when the opportunity's right, when we're low, when we're stressed, when we're breathing mold, when we're eating cereal in the morning, when we're exposed to mycotoxins, it makes us immunocompromised. Candida is one of the organisms, the pathogens, the disease-causing germs that can take over our body. Bill Crook in the 1960s wrote a book called The Yeast Connection, and man, did that open eyes. It made him a lot of enemies because he wrote in medical journals he thought that this yeast could cause numerous health problems. His friend, Dr. Truss, The Missing Diagnosis, if you've ever seen this book, pick it up. I mean, it was $9 back in the 80s when it was written. It's probably $2 online. Listen to this. They say you're neurotic, but do you experience depression, anxiety, irrational irritability, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, heartburn, indigestion, loss of self-confidence, inability to cope, lethargy, symptoms of contact with food and chemical odors, acne, migraine headaches, in women, urethritis, vaginitis, yeast infections, menstrual problems, and in men and children, whole different, hyperactivity in men, prostatitis in men, etc. Do you experience these? And you know what he did, Dr. Truss? He went right to Candida albicans. I think Candida albicans is one of many single-celled and multi-celled organisms that can cause health problems. Now, where does it get you, folks? You saw the thrush. We've all had that probably from time to time. Let's take a quick look, though, at the human body. This is all mucous membrane tissue, right? Lining a woman's vaginal tract, intestines, throat, etc. Mucous membrane tissue. This yeast is living harmoniously with bacteria. When we disrupt it with antibiotics or birth control pills, things like that, then it can convert to a harmless little yeast to a pathogen, which is active. But everywhere you see the internal organs, the alimentary system, the liver, the lungs, the kidneys, the blood system, there's even a name for blood fungal infections called fungemia. What I want you to see is everything here except maybe the teeth, these books are saying can grow mold and cause health problems. One of my favorite books is this book published in 1996, medical textbook, and in it has chapters on where this yeast or fungus can grow. Fungal infections of the respiratory tract, fungal infections of the eye, of the kidney and those associated with kidney failure, fungal diseases in genitourinary medicine, the gastrointestinal tract, fungemia in the bloodstream, bad problem. A fungus in the ear, nose, and throat, dermatology, the heart, meningitis, the covering of the nerves, mycoses due to lesions in the central nervous system, the bones, the joints. The take-home message is, you now know this. Unfortunately, this is not taught in medical school. Oh, bacteriology, a doctor gets lots of bacteriology education. They get some virology education, but very little mycology education. Did something just happen? Did someone in the government say cancer is a fungus? When we get back, let's address that.
Well, about 4 years ago, I was on my treadmill because I walk on my treadmill every day because I'm a type 2 diabetic. I was flipping the channels trying to find something to watch to keep me entertained, and I ran across a show called Know the Cause, and I just started listening to it. It was like somebody turning a light bulb on for me. It all made so much sense. And I'd tried the Atkins diet. I'd tried doing exactly what the so-called experts said, and it didn't work. I couldn't get my blood sugar below 180, doing exactly what they said. And so when I started doing this phase 1 diet, it all came together. Within just a few months, I noticed that the pain in my elbow went away, because I also work out with free weights. And when I would do curls, my elbows would hurt so bad I couldn't hardly touch them. And that was the first thing I noticed. Just one morning, it's like they don't hurt anymore. That was the first thing I noticed. And then my blood sugar started to leveling out. I noticed that, and I just felt so much better. Type 2 diabetics are overweight. I've never been overweight in my life. I've always tried to exercise, and I thought I was eating right. I was doing what they told me, the whole grains and the low fats, and it just wasn't working. And but no, I've never been overweight. And I asked the doctor, I said, well, because he told me, he said, what's a skinny little guy like you doing with all these old fat men problems? And I said, well, I don't know, that's why I came to you. Well, he just dealt a bad hand. That's the only explanation he had. My cuticles used to split open every winter, just really bad, painful. I'd have Band-Aids on every finger. And that doesn't happen to me anymore. And I credit it all to know the Cause and Doug Kaufman and the phase 1 diet. And I recommend everybody to get on it. It's just so much better. And I just can't thank Doug Kaufman enough. I feel like he saved my life.
We are discovering that chronic bacterial and fungal infections are the underlying cause of many illnesses that were previously mysteries. These particularly include chronic arthritis and chronic neurological illnesses. In these cases, the joints or nerve tissue is being destroyed by our immune systems in a case of friendly fire. Unfortunately, some of our tissues are antigenically similar to the invasive organism and end up injured. Eradication of the organism by lifestyle changes, antimicrobials, and modulation of the immune system can improve the autoimmune condition and provides hope and the chance of a cure rather than a slow, progressive deterioration. I'm Dr. Greg Emerson for Know the Cause.
Okay, as I open this segment, many of you saw in the newspaper a few weeks ago that Michelle Fiore, 77th Congress in the state of Nevada, is a state assemblywoman who went on record on a radio interview and said, I think cancer is a fungus, and instead of putting these PICC lines in to drip all these chemicals in, maybe we ought to put sodium bicarbonate in it and cure the fungus. Well, this became the most outrageous thing on the internet for a few weeks, and I'm scratching my head thinking, does she watch Know the Cause? Number one. Number two, didn't matter that she was a Republican or a Democrat. Both sides, folks, are vehemently opposed to anybody but doctors knowing the cause, okay? I'm gonna read you a headline, and I'll carry this with me through this 5-minute segment. Oat breakfast cereal may contain a common mold-related toxin. Oat breakfast cereal may contain a common mold toxin. And this mold toxin can cause injury to us. Can you imagine Mom knowing that when she used to cook our oatmeal? Can you imagine you and your wife, when you used to cook oatmeal for the kids or do today, seeing something that outrageous? Michelle Fiore was branded a quack. Only a quack would say that cancer is fungus. And yet this is the American Academy of Chemistry. These are some pretty big boys. I don't think these are quacks saying, we've been wrong for 200 years. Sorry, folks, but when you're eating some oats, I think 8 to 10% or something of all the samples they tested had too much of this mycotoxin, this fungus, in the oat. And so don't tell me today that fungus isn't causing cancer. Tell me it 30 years from now, when these same scientists are saying, oh my gosh, somebody may have said this 30, 40 years ago and he or she was right. Now, let's delve into this a little bit. What Michelle Fiore is actually talking about is a book called Cancer is a Fungus by Dr. Tullio Simoncini. Dr. Simoncini was here for a few days, spent some time with me. He's an oncologist from Italy who has found that if he can expose tumors to sodium bicarbonate, that they will begin to change their pH and begin to become eradicated. And I've got to tell you, he did have some interesting slides, but I've got to tell you the premise of the book is that all cancer is Candida albicans. I don't believe that. I think there are hundreds of molds and mycotoxins that can mimic tumor formation, and that's important. Does it cause cancer to start growing? Yeah. Aflatoxin B1 is recorded in the scientific literature, which is an aspergillus mold that grows on corn. It's documented in the scientific literature that aflatoxin B1 can actually contribute to human liver cancer. And so we know that fungus causes cancer. It's very, very important that we don't cross that line, however, and say this, and I don't think she did. All cancer is due to fungus. So let's back up. If we've just discovered in February, March 2015 that, gosh, folks, we never knew this, but your breakfast cereals have some contaminants in them. All we're reading in the scientific literature is, look, those pesticides are killing us, or the cereals aren't harvested properly and there's chemicals in the cereal, or that nasty Monsanto. Look, natural is mold. Mold, fungus as it degrades, makes these mycotoxins, right? Or moisture enters the column. All of a sudden you have these nasty mycotoxins. It isn't that anyone was keeping us from this. I've been trying to tell you this for the 40 years I've been in this field. It's just that finally, folks, scientists are opening their eyes. You will see in the scientific literature the past 10 years, these kids with asthma live in moldy homes. I wonder, And then I wonder 10 years, yeah. So he took some lung swabs and sure enough, it's the same mold growing in their home. It takes science a long period of time. Michelle Fiore, don't jump on that bandwagon yet and make such a statement. As you know, I've published widely on this. And one publication that the journal Oncology News recently accepted just a few months ago said that fungus is grossly underrated as the cause of cancers. Then we went on to delineate that, right? We went on to talk about that. We said that 27 people with lung cancer, right? When they had a biopsy done, the doctor said, that may not be lung cancer. Let's put them all on antifungal medicine like Doug talks about on his show, all 27, although diagnosed with radiographic studies, x-rays, and clinically, they all had lung cancer. Guess what? They're all alive and well today because of Michelle Fiore's statement, because they all 27 had a fungus that was mimicking cancer. Can fungus cause cancer? Yes, it can, indirectly by the making of mycotoxins. Can fungus mimic cancer? You bet it can. And I think every day women are diagnosed with breast cancer, men are diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I think fungus in their diet and their lifestyle has a lot to do with that. Dr. Gus Kasanas, my good friend, is coming up next. Don't go away.
So snacks are an imperative part of a healthy way of eating, especially the phase 1 diet. It helps to keep your blood sugar stable, and it also just helps you from feeling deprived. My 4 favorite healthy, quick, and easy snacks is number 1, nuts and apples. You can do almond butter and slice up those apples. You can do just raw nuts And I always stick them in my purse, and I always have a healthy snack that's quick and easy to go. Avocado and salsa. I love mashing up an avocado with some salsa that's made with apple cider vinegar, and then I take veggies and I use it as a dip. It's really delicious. And then smoothies. Smoothies, you can just do anything. Berries, your coconut milk, your greens, maybe some almond butter, quick and easy. And then deli meat. A healthy deli meat with hummus or an avocado is perfect lunch or snack.
You know, there's Dr. Gus Casanas, good friend of mine for many, many years. A quarter of a century I've known this doctor. Thank you for coming in and being with us today. As I introed you in the beginning of the show, I talked about something called functional medicine. I know that's the kind of practice you have, but let me back up a bit. There was a doctor in Marina del Rey, California, who introduced me to all of this. At the time, he was a non-traditional, we called them non-traditional doctors. They went on to then become holistic doctors. And now we're at the point where you have a multidisciplinary, you have a psychologist, you have a chef, a cook, you have a chiropractor, you have, all these various disciplines in your practice. I have watched your practice in 25 years go from little respiratory problems, he'd walk in with his stethoscope and listen to people's chest, to a multidisciplinarian practice or a functional medicine practice. What does that mean when we say functional medicine?
Well, we look at the whole body. We look at all the systems work together as a unit, and we treat people with diseases, not diseases specifically. So when someone comes in, let's say they have asthma, you say, why do they have asthma? You look at the digestive system, you look at the endocrine system, you look at the brain, you look at the emotions, you look at the spirit of the person. So you look at the holistic approach, or you connect all the dots.
Yeah.
And then you look at nutrition as a base for everything. And look at the excretory system, make sure the trash is moved out of the body when it's accumulated.
Which, by the way, so often is a problem. So many. Do you find this in your practice? This starts
the gut, everything.
So they're constipated or diarrhea. They have horrible bloating, belching.
Liver
gas.
is not working. Kidneys are not working. So nothing's going to work.
Okay, I want to ask you something. You refer to psychologists, or do you have one in your practice now?
I refer to a psychologist about 2 miles down the street.
See, what percentage of health problems do you find are linked to the brain? In other words, people can't let their health problem go because of unresolved something.
Nothing is 100%. I'm going to say close to 100%.
Really?
Yes.
So that plays a huge role.
Absolutely.
Okay, another question. What role do you think germs like mycotic germs, fungus, plays?
Once the energy of your body,
Yep.
We're like a battery. We have a
Recharge,
a
yeah.
charge. Once the charge falls, then the bugs take over, especially the fungi and other things, parasites, etc. So when you have a chronic infection that doesn't go anywhere, fungus and parasites is really the problem, along with toxic metals, along with environmental toxins.
See, here's a doctor that does things differently. This isn't a bone doctor that looks at your bones or can set your bones, although you do a lot of this,
Yes.
exciting stuff in your clinic. I just can't even believe all you do. But you look at the whole body as being out of sync. Do you still do allergy work?
So yes, we do.
But that's not the majority work. You're even seeing, and you're an ear, nose, and throat physician. So in the old days, ENT doctors would see ear tumors, throat, nasal tumors, polyps, etc. But you've been far away.
Actually, we're doing integrated oncology, and we try to correct all the problems that they have. You start with the physical first, and then, of course, the emotional is very critical in anyone with cancer, and then the spiritual also is important. And you combine those things using IPT, insulin potentiation therapy, which is a low-dose chemotherapy, high doses of vitamin C, using oxidative therapies like ozone and other innovative treatments. They help most of the patients.
Yeah, and everyone, I've heard your office say, represents a thumbprint. In other words, no two patients are exactly alike. And you find that very often diet is a factor that...
Common factor for everyone.
So do you start there with diet?
Absolutely. Lifestyle and diet, that's the first thing. And then clean up the digestive system, that's the second block. And you got to use everything from antifungals to probiotics and enzymes. Then you move north and trying to correct the liver, the pancreas, and the adrenals. And then you move north to the thyroid, and from there forward, you try to connect the gut and the brain, because they're connected. Whatever goes out in the gut goes in the brain. So you need to support all these systems in order to have a wonderful outcome.
And what I love is when you shake the hand of the patient and say goodbye, they go home and they must take responsibility for their own health.
Absolutely.
See,
And they also need family help. If someone's chronically ill, the family has to pitch in and help. Treat them like a toddler for a couple, 3 months.
They have coordinators, patient care coordinators, whether you have autism, cancer, etc. They'd be happy to pick up the phone, call you back, call them. If they're busy, they'll call you back. Thank you for coming in today. Really good to spend some time with you. Don't go away, friends. More of Know the Cause right around the corner.
I'm Dan Soloway. I'm the host of the Health and Fitness Radio Show. All my life, I had suffered with allergies. When I was a little boy, I used to run off the roof and I would climb fences and I'd get stitches about every 2 weeks. To the doctor nicknamed me Band-Aid Dan. And of course, back in the early 50s, they'd give you penicillin shots every time you went in. And by the time I got into first grade, I would sneeze after breakfast. I sneezed so much, I suffered nearly all my life from allergies. And then it got really bad about 2 years ago. My garage flooded about 6 times in a heavy rain over about a month period. And I'd gotten a mold infection to a point that I could only sleep about an hour. And I remembered my friend Doug Kaufman said that when he was at USC, they used to powder up nystatin tablets. So I got a diflucan prescription and nystatin tablets, powdered up, put in a saline solution, and for the first time in my life, I know what it feels like not to have allergies. And I used every nutritional thing under the sun, but when I put those two combinations together, it cured my toenail fungus and cured my allergies. So I'm really impressed, and I'm really glad I know Doug, because without that, I'd still be sniffling.
So from mycoses, now you understand what that word means, to Candida albicans, a word popularized by Dr. Billy Crook many, many years ago, to Michelle Fiore, who comes out, GOP lawmaker, sees cancer as fungus, to Gus Kasanis in functional medicine, Dr. Kasanis. He and I have been friends for many, many years, too many years to even remember, but I really love his gentle spirit. I really love when he sits down with a patient and really teaches them the ins and outs of functional medicine. Your ear may be ringing because something's sorely wrong down here. And yet ear, nose, and throat doctors treat you from here up. Okay, are you hearing that? Holistic, when spelled with a W, implies the whole body is out of sync, not just the ear. I hope you've enjoyed today's show half as much as we have enjoyed bringing it to you. And now it's time to read my autographed copy of Cancer is a Fungus by Dr. Tullio Simoncini. God bless you folks. If you enjoy it, tell a friend.